Today we're going to do a video on Snow and Nealley Hudson Bay axes. This is from my collection of axes. Hudson Bays are small 1 3/4 pound axes in the case of Snow and Nealley. I had this sheath made. I like this axe so much. This is an early one. You can see that it looks like it's worn down here a little bit, but actually it's not. I think this is the pattern here. This is the way they designed it early. Snow and Nealley started making axes in the 1860s, but this Hudson Bay pattern came along in the 1920s when one of the sons of the founders and the owner of the company made a deal with L.L.Bean to produce their axes, or to actually sell their axes through the L.L.Bean catalog. And this was the result here. L.L.Bean sold to people that wanted to go camping, and at this period in the 20s, camping was becoming popular. People had more leisure time. A lot more people lived in the cities. The demand for larger axes was kind of stagnant because of the lumber industry sort of declining or staying steady. So the demand here was for these small camping axes. I think Webster Marble probably had the first one, a 1 3/4 pound or 1 1/2 pound actually in 1906, and these came along to probably compete with those. This is their Hudson Bay. Again, you can see the same axe, a little bit different handle. It has this style here. Now this is an early style of Hudson Bay. We'll get to the later style here later in the Snow and Nealley. This one has probably pounding metal tent stakes. Both these have 1 3/4 stamped here. Snow and Nealley always stamp their weight here, and they always had a big iron wedge here in the top. That's a good way to tell a Snow and Nealley axe. The reason I think this is the way it's supposed to be is if you would lay this down like this, it hits exactly in the middle. It's the same space on either side here. So I think this is supposed to be shaped like this. Anyway, I've seen 4 of them, and they've all been like this, with this toe up here slightly in. It looks a little unbalanced, but actually it's not. It's a very efficient axe. Now later, Snow and Nealley, for some reason, this is marked L.L.Bean. They made the design this long, narrow, and this is kind of the shape that's associated with Hudson Bays. Norland and Collins both made this kind. I think L.L.Bean responded to the marketplace by changing the shape into this. I'm not 100% sure this is actually a Snow and Nealley because there's no weight stamp and it doesn't have the big iron wedge. However, this one here, this is one from the 70s, I think, maybe later 80s. Has this kind of a fabric sheath, or actually a fabric stretchy material with a folded over piece of leather. Kind of a cost-saving type of sheath. But again, you can see this is a later style. This one's pristine, never been used. Big iron wedge. 1 3/4 pounds. 1 3/4 pounds. It's marked L.L.Bean, Freeport, Maine, but it was made by Snow and Nealley. I brought this one out. This is a Collins axe here. You can see Collins made a lot of these. This is a Collins Legitimus. I think they were the #1 seller of these Hudson Bays for a long time. You can see the resemblance. It's almost a direct copy. A little bit of notch here in the Collins. but other than that they're almost exactly the same. But these axes here, you see the difference between the early and the later style? This is a much nicer axe. The problem with these Hudson Bays is the physics and geometry. If you strike the piece of wood here, you're chopping and hit the wood here, puts tremendous pressure on this, twisting it, so these heads tend to loosen. It's good for carving, but so is this. But it's much better for chopping. I think Snow and Nealley made a mistake when they switched to this newer style. They of course eventually went out of business. I believe they're back in business now. I wish them some success, but I think these axes here are some of the finest camping axes ever made. I'm going to do a video on rehabbing this axe. If this was owned by a famous person, I might keep it like this, but I don't like this tape here. You can see they're almost exactly the same size, just different length handle. Anyway, that's my take on the Snow and Nealley Hudson Bay axe. Thanks for watching.